Hello there! It's Friday. I just peeked my microphone, which means it's time.
We'll go
once
with
again. We're gonna carry on. It's time once again for the best movie podcast ever, the only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, Anthony. Was that you interrupting the introduction there? I heard the voice come through.
No, I just went yep.
Oh, okay.
to something you said. I just said yep.
Was it the? Did you just acknowledge the peaking that happened there?
Well, I did that too. But I think even when you said the only movie podcast, I was like yep.
Oh, okay, so it's more like a sort of a Flavor Flav hype man situation.
Just put my 2 cents in, you know. Just put my 2 cents in.
I don't remember where I was in the introduction, so I'm simply going to say I am the podcaster with no name, and Anthony James is here. He loves the sound of inevitability. Anthony, how the devil are you?
I'm doing well. I am doing well. Ironically, I think this is going to be a more positive podcast than I ever expected it to be. I mean, you told me that you love this film, and then I was like, what? That's crazy to me. So then I watched it, and I've got some things to say. I don't think I loved it as much as you did, but I did really like it, though, I will say.
Well, what better time than now to reveal that we will, of course, be talking about the Wachowski sisters, The Matrix Resurrections, hot off the presses. It's been out in cinemas a mere month now, I think. We're really nailing these at the height of their popularity. It's a divisive movie. I think that's fair to say. It seems like
height of their popularity. I think the height of the popularity for this one's probably going to be about 6 or 7 years from now.
Yeah, when people actually watch it, because no one's going to the cinema to see anything apart from Spider-Man at the moment, apparently. But that's what we're here to talk about. I'm trying to think if I have anything else that I want to actually say in this introduction. I don't think I do. So without further ado, why don't we talk about some gosh darn movies?
Let's do it.
Movies. We're here to talk about them. Have we done an episode in 2022? Did we do one?
No, did we?
I feel like I announced
it was
2022 in the last one.
Because we did the Christmas films that aren't Christmas films.
That's right. Yep, sure. Okay, well, I mean, to be honest, that's my fault for picking that as a subject, because I've immediately
it feels like the Christmas episode.
That's last year's, clearly. But we're here to talk about The Matrix Resurrections. Before we do that, though, we've got some business to attend to. First of all, interesting announcement this week, which is that Pixar's Turning Red won't be coming to theaters. So it's a movie about a red panda. That's all I know about it. It's probably aimed at children. It's a Pixar movie.
I know quite a bit about it.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay, there you go. You probably know more than I do.
It's based on the idea of puberty, I think.
Oh, okay, great. Well, it's something we can all identify with then. Well, actually, least of all children, really. So it shouldn't be a children's film.
Well, it's preparing them for the changes ahead, I imagine.
I suppose so. Yeah, so it's a warning. A warning about the problems they're coming in for.
Warning, red. That's why it's red. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. If it was maybe the panda turns green at the end. This is the third straight Pixar movie that has gone straight to Disney Plus, along with Soul and Luca, which I thought was interesting purely because Pixar releases used to be big cinema business, and it seems like Disney are now saying that their focus is primarily on Disney Plus subscribers and are pulling Pixar movies for the purpose of doing this, which seems like an odd choice.
I've got some meta-analysis for you.
Go on.
You know, I've thought of this literally right now, but let's go with it.
Perfect. Hot off the presses.
You think about this, right? There is a big audience amongst adults, millennial adults and younger, for Disney musicals and stuff. You know, but I would even say for like the generation of us who grew up with Pixar, like Toy Story and Bugs Life and everything, we were the generation who saw that sort of first. I would say when you hear a Pixar film's coming out, you have a certain amount of thought that it's going to be a quality film. Yeah. So therefore, by putting them just on Disney Plus, I don't like that, but it's almost ensuring that our generation will also subscribe to Disney Plus.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the name of the game, is to be like, you want the quality animation, it's only on Disney Plus. Because
they're not only putting Pixar on for children. You know, I think they are thinking about like the millennial and younger when they put Pixar films on Disney Plus. You know?
Yeah. No, I think you're probably right, but it is surprising. I imagine that's a trend that will continue at least until the pandemic is a little better.
Well, hopefully it doesn't go forever. And I would worry that if they do it for too long, they'll start cutting the budgets, and therefore Pixar can't put in all the great work they do. Another thing is that I'm pretty sure the Lightyear one will be going to the cinema. There's no chance the Lightyear film, which is obviously the film based on the astronaut Buzz Lightyear from
the fictional astronaut Buzz Lightyear who exists in the world of Toy Story.
He's
got a TV show. Yeah.
It's the film. It's the film that the toy was created from within the world of Toy Story. We're getting meta here, guys.
It's 3 layers deep, that movie.
Yeah, so that has to be in the cinema. I know my son is really.
You
excited
say
for
that,
it.
but I mean, you would have. There was a time when every Pixar movie would be a guaranteed cinema release. I guess.
I know what you mean. Toy Story though,
like Disney Plus didn't exist at that point, so there wasn't another option. But
but Toy I know what you mean. But I think Toy Story will come to the cinema. It has to. But as well as that, like the thing is as well, the Pixar ones have done really well on Disney Plus. Like I think Luca became massive. Like children. Luca will be one of this group of children coming through's biggest films from their. It's basically like the Lion King of their growing up. You know what I mean? It's maybe the Toy Story, the Toy Story of their growing up, because
the babies I know love
big.
It.
Yeah, they love it. They bloody love it. They bloody love this stuff.
Well, there you go. Okay, well, I mean, we'll check back in roughly 20 years' time and see what the babies thought of it, of this practice by Disney.
I'll do a daily diary with my son, see how his opinions change over the years.
Yeah, perfect. We'll put that on the channel. The only other thing I wanted to cover here, because they certainly didn't want anyone covering it, was the Golden Globes. They happened. They were not televised due in part due to continued scrutiny over the diversity or lack thereof in the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Essentially, no one famous attended. There were no cameras. Power of the Dog won Best Picture Drama, and West Side Story won Best Picture Comedy or Musical. So there you go. Maybe they'll win Oscars. Who can say?
Okay, yeah, I'll say 10 seconds on that, Konrad, if I will, in my color commentator role here.
Go on.
I was listening to the BBC Radio 4 on the way to work today. Well, it was sort of, I was talking to Ema and I was in the background, but they were talking about the Golden Globes and how it wasn't televised or anything like that because of issues with diversity and stuff like that.
Yes.
And didn't the BBC show their true colors by only mentioning the winners who happened to be trans or happened to be black? They didn't actually mention the 98% of the awards that didn't go to them. And the BBC were like, under questions of diversity. But hang on, they did give an award to this person. It's like, go away. Like
the definition of the word performative. We've got to show balance. The BBC, we've got to make sure that the BBC is balanced and shows both sides of the argument, from the racist nightmare people and the normal people. We've got to get both sides of that argument.
I can't understand how that got through the editorial, because you can just imagine someone sitting at home, some old guy going like, "Oh, this diversity's gone mad." And they're like, and this award went to the first ever trans person that got the award. They're like, "See, it is diverse. What are they talking about?" Like, they put it together exactly so that reaction would be had. It's crazy.
It's an attack on our culture, Anthony, is what it is. We need to be careful.
Culture cave.
Yeah, attack on the culture cave. Well, I mean, we'll get our name in the papers. That'd be good. But that's the Golden Globes. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association is old and full of old white dudes, and it should be reformed or replaced with something better. I don't know if you can technically reform things that aren't political, but whatever the equivalent of the non-political organisations is, they should do that to it. That's all I wanted to say on that. Now we're going to talk about The Matrix, because I loved this movie. I think it's a really good movie. The Matrix Resurrections, this is, from 2021, directed by the returning Lily and Lana Wachowski. It's starring...
only directed by one. Lana
was it only Lana?
Wachowski. Yeah, so I think Lily Wachowski didn't want to return to something from previous transition, like from before transition.
I thought Lily worked in it as well. There we go. Well, I've been corrected
there was a, I think, production credit potentially, but I don't think Lily was involved whatsoever.
That's good to know. Okay, well, from Lana Wachowski then, but it's all the old favourites. it's you know the
well,
score.
most of them.
You've got your Keanu Reeves. You've got your Carrie-Anne Moss. You've got your Jada Pinkett Smith, who shows up in very funny old woman makeup, as far as I'm concerned. She looks like a Jackass character in this, like when they put like a rubber mask on to play an old person. It was great. So okay, what we're gonna do is I'm going to do a very quick plot catch-up for what happened before this, because let's be fair, it has been 18 years since the last Matrix movie came out. So it's reasonable for people to not really remember where the plot left us. And then we'll go through the plot of this one. And I have a confession to make. I watched Matrix Revolutions for the first time in 20 years, or 18 years, before this came out, in prep for it. And I actually really liked that movie. I've fully come round on it.
Yeah, the thing is, Konrad, from now on, when you judge my opinion of films, just remember you will have the same opinion in 20 years' time.
No, I should be lauded for this. I should be lauded for
you've done well to admit it. You've done. I agree that you've admitted you were wrong, or you went wrong. Your opinion has changed. And
I still think Reloaded is bad. Reloaded is a bad movie. I really don't like Reloaded.
He's doing his Superman thing though.
Oh, it's that Agent Smith fight looked bad at the time, and it looks so bad now. And then the final, like the first half of that movie is really good fun, and the second half is just such boring exposition for the entire time. It's just people talking.
The Keymaster.
Something about the Keymaster, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, right. Very quick Matrix rundown to catch everyone up. So Neo becomes the One in the Matrix, does a bunch of cool kung fu. He rejects his role in the cycle of the destruction of Zion in Reloaded. Talks to the architect, says, not going to do that anymore, I'm going to save humanity. And then in Revolutions, Neo basically makes a deal with the machines to allow his physical body to kind of be bound to them as he enters the Matrix one final time to fight the now rampant like Agent Smith virus. Trinity's dead. He allows Smith to implant him with the virus. It kills him, and the machines are able then to destroy Smith. Matrix is restored to its kind of normal form, and the movie ends with the Oracle and the Architect united, looking towards a brighter future. Humans are allowed to leave the Matrix if they want. Everyone's happy. The end? Question mark? Because not. Well, actually, I think this is literally set 19 years later. I can't remember if they say the year that the Matrix Resurrections is set in. I guess it wouldn't make sense.
It's basically very similar. Yeah, it's similar time frame, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very meta movie.
Not as meta as I was expecting, but it is very meta.
Okay, well, so this movie then takes place, let's say 19 years in the future. I'm sure they do mention it, but I didn't write it down. And a character who should be dead. One Mr. Thomas Anderson is the mind behind a very popular video game in the world of the, well, it's in the Matrix, but he doesn't know that. The game itself is the Matrix, and it's all based off his memories of Neo. There's a suspiciously familiar looking woman played by Carrie-Anne Moss, who goes to the same coffee shop as him, called Tiffany. And he's basically struggling to discern reality from fantasy. He goes to a therapist who prescribes him blue pills, played by Neil Patrick Harris. And then one fateful day, a character called Bugs basically busts a Morpheus program out of a little modal, like a little kind of self-contained program that he's made, that's rerunning the opening scene to the original Matrix movie. He busts Morpheus out, and using Morpheus, she is able to track down Neo, who they free. And it seems that the Matrix has been remade, but not in the way they intended. And that's our movie right there. We're off to the races.
Yeah, I actually thought... Well, it wasn't that the Matrix was remade, though.
Well, I mean, the Matrix has always existed, but
it's changed again, hasn't it? Yeah. Like there's certain characters who have been influencing it, particularly. So I love the idea of the Morpheus coming from a program this time. I thought that was pretty cool. I liked eventually how they went with. I'm sure we'll talk about the symbolism that they're going for in the overarching themes of the film later on. But I liked whenever he is able to actually, because they actually said that they have a way of getting a program out of the Matrix now, which is really interesting. I was really, really wondering how they were going to materialize that. And then when it did actually come about, I wasn't let down. I really liked the way that they materialized the programs in the real world. And considering you've already mentioned that they actually are in the Matrix, we're potentially going full spoilers already.
We'll try and keep so that's like the setup. I don't think that there's too many spoilers in that, because that's like the first 20 minutes of the movie.
I mean, you do find him within the first 20 minutes.
I mean, come on, it's a Matrix movie. You know he's in the Matrix. I don't think that's spoiling anyone. We'll try and keep it non-spoilery for the moment, and then we'll go full bore in a minute, in 10 minutes.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I think that I like that aspect, getting Morpheus out.
Yeah.
I will say that I was expecting something different. The setup of him being this game designer legend who created the game The Matrix, they use that as a mode to do all this discussion around the idea of being really meta about needing to make a remake.
Yeah, they've got to make sequels. Hollywood always needs to leverage sequels and nostalgia to make money, or Hollywood in the games industry, and it's it is very meta. It's essentially making fun of its own existence.
It is, yeah. I thought that was good. I like that meta aspect to it. I think once they made that joke, it was sort of, I didn't really need the I don't know if I needed, they did a montage very early on, which I don't think was really needed.
With the nightmare game developers, and Christina Ricci shows up in that scene for 5 minutes just to.
She's the lead on the new game or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I'm gonna come back to Morpheus in a second, because I want to mention Abdul Mateen a bit more, but I think the first 40, or no, it's not really 40 minutes, probably the first half hour of this movie, where it's very meta, and it's a lot of Lily Wachowski talking. Wait, hold on, which one did you say worked on this? Lily or Lana? I can't remember. Lana Wachowski. Basically speaking through her characters to talk about to address things that she wants to address, and there's a lot. I think it's a running theme in this movie that the voice of the author is very clear, and I think that might rub some people the wrong way. For me, it didn't bother me as much, because most of the characters that she is speaking through are simulations in the Matrix. So there's that kind of layer of abstraction where if they don't really behave like normal people, I don't mind, because they're not real people. You kind of have that excuse ready-made for those characters. But I could see it annoying some people. It didn't annoy me at all. I loved it.
Well, be more explicit what you're saying, because I noticed a lot of fingerprints of themes within it, which were very obvious to me. But it's not actually through the characters from The Matrix talking. So what do you mean?
Well, I mean, so that entire first half hour with the scumbag developers and people, I can't even remember what they're saying. I didn't write the lines down, but they're talking in very kind of gamer bro speak about making a sequel to The Matrix, and they're awful characters. They're nightmare people, and it's very clearly Lana Wachowski making fun of these kind of people who sit in production meetings for sequels to beloved franchises, or video games that are video game adaptations or whatever, and have clearly meetings that they have been in and they're pulling from. And I think it could potentially find it frustrating that all of these characters are utter scumbags and not really believable as human beings. But I think for me, one of the reasons why it worked is because they're not actually human beings. You've got that layer of abstraction where this is all happening in the Matrix, so you can just kind of be they're not real people. Christina Ricci is a simulation in this.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I think that's great. Obviously, there is a load of commentary on LGBTQ plus issues and stuff, which we can get into fully maybe in the spoiler section, because there are particular mentions of things that happen in there we have to mention. I will say I personally think I made a fantastic joke, and just to tell the audience, I don't think it's a bad taste joke.
Here we go.
But if you don't know the context of this joke, you may think that.
Go on.
Yeah, I know. But if you don't know the context of this joke, you might think it's bad. But it's such a good joke, in my opinion. And I will pat myself on the back for it, right?
Okay.
When Morpheus said, I think I'm Morpheus, and he became Morpheus, I turned to Ema and I said, is that Samuel L. Jackson? Because you know how Lawrence Fishburne and Samuel L. Jackson always got annoyed by being by being mistaken with each other.
I think that
Come on,
was that
that's
not
a good joke.
I think that was a joke on extras, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
Well, the extra hadn't seen this movie yet, so. But yeah, it was. Whenever Samuel Jackson was on it, he said, "Yeah, I loved you in Matrix." But there's actually clips from interviews where Lawrence Fishburne is getting. No, the Samuel Jackson interviewers have said to him, "I loved you in the Matrix" in real interviews.
I'm sure. I mean, he has to like just put up with that joke, I guess, now, because extras immortalized it to the point where I'm sure people say it a mixture of seriously and in jest.
Oh yeah. It's both ironic and real now. But yeah, you're exactly right. I thought the new Morpheus was good though.
It wasn't in fact Lawrence Fishburne. It was Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, who
I've never seen him before or anything.
So he was in One Night in Miami. He has been in a couple of other things that I've seen, and he's always very good. And he doesn't get that much screen time. He gets a little bit, but he's kind of a secondary character insofar as there are secondary characters in this. Certainly, he's more of a secondary character than Morpheus was in the original movies. Let's say that much. But I think Yahya Abdul-Mateen absolutely brings it. Like, he's very. I'm going to use a word that the young folk use now. He's very extra in the outfits that he wears. Very flamboyant outfits. The way he performs. There's a lot of charisma, a lot of flamboyance to his performance, which I really, really loved. And I think he did the absolute most he could with the time that he had. And when the movie develops and we see, so he's a program, and we see how in the real world those programs manifest physically around physical humans, I thought that was really cool as well. I thought it looked great, and I thought his performance translated really well into that, which it might not have done. It's probably not that easy to perform in such a way as would work in that situation.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think the little magnetized balls of metal, like he was.
Yeah, it's like little ball bearings, basically.
Yeah, little ball bearings, and it was so he could sneak through drain pipes and stuff. But so yeah, I thought that was a really cool manifestation of that, and obviously the overarching theme there. I saw this for the first trilogy when I was really young, so the themes of the LGBTQ plus community and stuff was sort of a bit lost on me, but this one really made me realize that this is what it's been about from the start. So the idea now that they have allies, so the humans, I suppose, would be kind of like the community. And then they have allies because programs are joining their cause, as well as that actual machines from the real world are joining their cause as well.
Certainly, I think there's a few things that you can read into those. So the one thing, we'll get into spoilers in a second, just so we can fully discuss this. The one thing I'll say before we do that is, it's a Matrix movie, so obviously there's going to be martial arts and cool action sequences. And although so you haven't got Yuen Wu-ping working on this, the stunt choreographer who worked on the original 3 movies, having come from Jackie Chan stuff in Hong Kong. So the choreography is not as good, and it's less kind of the wide shots, traditional kind of Hong Kong martial arts movie wide shots, and more kind of fast cuts, which is a little disappointing. But you have to also remember that most of the actors in this who are doing the martial arts the main ones at least are in their 50s, so it's understandable that there's a bit more cutting around to hide their shortcomings based on age. But I still thought the martial arts was really good, and I thought just as an act, there's a lot going on in this movie, a lot that Lana Wachowski wants to say. But I think just as an action movie, it works quite well too. I enjoyed the action part of it, and just the sort of basic story that it's telling of kind of fixing the Matrix again, basically.
Yeah, I didn't become bored with the action, which is saying something, because it's the 4th one, So I didn't become bored with the action. I thought that it did progress the story well. So I think they managed to marry it. I think there was when I go away from the film, I don't remember the action as much as I do the story beats and stuff. I think the actual meta story that they were telling and stuff was more important to this one than, say, when you think about what they were trying to do with some of the ones, especially Reloaded, it was all about the action, really, kind of.
Well, the first half was. The second half was just them talking about the bloody stuff that the architect is going to go on about, basically.
I know what you mean, but the most memorable parts of that, are on the freeway and stuff, and and when he's flying and things. So I think that this one, I'm not going to remember the action.
I think that's
2
fair.
years. In 2 years' time, I'm not going to remember the action. I'm only
Yeah.
going to remember. I'm only going to remember the.
I think that's fair. I definitely enjoyed it. I don't think there's an action set piece that is going to stay with me in the way that the Morpheus rescue in the first Matrix or the highway chase in Reloaded is going to stay with me, which is a shame, but those are also two of the best action set pieces of the last 30 years. So it's a high bar, I think, that they're competing against. Okay, right. We're going into spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, warning that we're going to talk about spoilers now. You can come back in, I don't know, 10 minutes time, maybe, and we'll talk about like our final thoughts. But this is your warning. So you've already kind of mentioned it, Anthony, and I think that's an interesting point. The Exiles come back, and in particular, the Merovingian comes back. So the Exiles are kind of the old programs who, in the original trilogy, were kind of hinted at as being former agent programs that had been cast out because they were out of date, and they essentially became like black market individuals in the original trilogy. And I'm going to talk for a second about the clear like voice of the author going on here. This is. Like we've already talked about this kind of riffing on Hollywood's need to produce sequels and leverage nostalgia, but there's also a very clear message in this of Lana Wachowski wanting to talk directly to the idiots who appropriated the red pill as a dog whistle for like racism and bigotry, and I felt like that was represented pretty much to a T by the Merovingian, who turns up as this like kind of Tom Hanks in Castaway looking motherfucker, like,
what the hell? Like...
wild hair, like wearing skins and like spitting and blathering about how things were better back in the old days and wanting things to go back to how they were. And it's just, I feel like it's a direct shot at the kind of people who consume media with nostalgia as their like primary demand from it, which I think there's quite a lot of crossover between that and the people who maybe criticized the original Matrix for being too, or well, would criticize this Matrix for being too woke while completely failing to understand the allegories of gender identity and racial identity in the original Matrix trilogy, of which there were a lot. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like any dystopian future is usually based in these, in some sort of more deep point. Yeah. I sometimes think that we've talked about it before, like a little bit. I sometimes think that these like sort of accusations of wokeness is literally like, you know, you're trying to have a message in your art. How dare you? It's like, well, yes, every piece of art should. If you want to make art which is just on the face of it, then it's going to be pretty bad.
Well, it means nothing now. It means nothing. It's wokeness is a term that has been appropriated by right-wing morons as a dog whistle, essentially, to basically criticize something without actually having any valid criticism for it. It's the criticism leveraged by people who view the presence of a non-white or a non-cisgendered or non-straight or just a woman. Anyone who isn't a cis white man is inherently political, and therefore featuring them in any kind of prominent role in your film or television show or whatever you're making is woke. And I love that this movie speaks directly to those people, directly to the critics, and says, no, fuck off. Like, The Matrix has always been woke. The first movie, or in fact all three of the original trilogy, had Rage Against the Machine in the credits, and I don't know how anyone could have possibly watched those movies and not understood that the kind of ideas that those people would end up espousing were exactly what it was speaking against. And I think there's an element, so this is the thing that I can understand people not liking about this movie, because I happen to agree with a lot of what this movie is saying, which is why I'm happy to hear the voice of the author so obviously being spoken through it. And I think some people who maybe don't will not enjoy it, which is not to say that there aren't valid criticisms aside from that, but a lot of the criticism I have seen of this movie has been quite bad faith arguments of being like, has the Matrix gone woke? And it's like, no, it hasn't. It's always been this way, actually.
Yeah, you've just, like, maybe that person speaking has just got to the point where they stopped progressing. Like, this is what I always find funny. Like, this is obviously we're not a political commentary podcast, but we'll give our opinion every now and then. I personally do not understand the people who can't see themselves in past bigots. So, like, the idea of you talking about someone talking about wokeness or someone being against trans rights, how can you not transport yourself back 20-30 years and see that you are making the exact same arguments that they did against gay people, or 20-30 years before that, the exact same arguments they were making against the black rights movement? I don't understand how these people think that, okay, now society should stop progressing. Like, why do they would, like, all these people, they would have been against every single social change throughout history, because you know what they have an innate want to stay the same, an innate want to have the status quo maintained, and it's terrible.
Well, I mean, they don't witness oppression in their day-to-day lives, or at least not explicit physical oppression. Therefore, it can't possibly exist. That's how it's perceived. But yes, so I love that this movie is speaking to that, and I love that it's very. It's very outspoken in its messages, and I think it's a movie that with a message that we need, and it just happens to be a very good movie as well, I think. A couple of other things I wanted to get into. First off, I don't know if you'll necessarily know who this is or recognize him, but Tiffany's husband is played by Chad Stahelski, who was
I did know that. Yeah. I don't know why I think I saw him in an interview like 2 days before I watched this film, and that's the reason I knew.
I love they call him Handsome Chad in this movie, which I just love. And
thought, yes,
go on.
It took me 5 minutes to realize it was him, because I heard the name Chad, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my god, are they already starting poking at the red pill guys?
Yeah,
because like the idea of him being called Chad, I was like, oh my god. Yeah. But then I realized who it is. I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's just coincidence.
He does sound like a red pillar, but I'm assured that Chad Stahelski is a lovely man by all accounts. He was, of course, Keanu Reeves' stunt double in the original trilogy, and has gone on to direct the John Wick movies, and seems like a pretty cool guy from everything I've heard of him. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was I've always kind of liked the production and costuming for Zion in these movies. I always thought that they were really well designed places. They felt very real. And Io is the city that we come back to here in the real world, which is as you've said, we've got friendly robots and AI added to the kind of cultural melting pot of allies, sure, of the post-apocalypse, because it's not the post-apocalypse anymore. We're past the post-apocalypse, and humanity's starting to kind of recover now. How did you find Io, aside from Jada Pinkett Smith's Niobe with her weird old lady makeup?
I like the same as you. I love the design of the real world within the Matrix. I don't think we saw too much of it, to be honest with you. I liked the design of what I saw, but there's only so much they could do in the one film. I liked it. But it didn't add much. I don't know. Actually, I'll take that back. I really enjoyed the part where they were going in, they were showing how they were growing their own food now and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the addition of the robots and the programs that have left the Matrix added a lot to the look of it as well, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I didn't even mind the sort of heavy-handed symbolism of some of the namings as well. Like the woman who grows the plants is Freya, who I believe is like the Norse goddess of nature or something, which I was like, that's fine, we can all agree that that's fine, it doesn't matter. But yes, okay, well, I think that's just about everything I wanted to go through here. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
There was one or two things which could be just very quick here. First thing was the inclusion of Jonathan Groff as Agent Smith.
I saw him. He turned up in an episode of the new Sex and the City that my partner is watching. I was very surprised. I was very surprised to see him in that.
He's actually fantastic, and when we eventually do sit down and do a reaction or whatever, even if we just watch it on personal life, to Hamilton, he plays an interesting role in that.
Oh, okay.
He's also the main role in the TV show, the David Fincher TV show Mindhunter, which is about it's about the invention of the term serial killer, and he's also and one of the main voices in Frozen and Frozen 2 as well.
I've not seen either of those, so that's probably why I don't know him that well.
So Jonathan Groff, I thought the decision to have him play Smith was rather interesting to me. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed his performance, but he never felt like Smith to me. He never felt like Smith at all.
No, I think. Yeah, Hugo Weaving's a tough act to follow. But I think he's not helped by the script. Smith is kind of an afterthought in this. He turns up, fights Neo when the exiles are kind of trying to deal with all the humans, and they have a cool fight there. And then he's really not in the movie until the very end, when he kind of turns up to help them, basically to help save the day. Although he's very much an anti-hero in that moment. But I do agree that Jonathan Groff did a good job with what he had, but I just don't think they gave him. He was feeding off of scraps, I think, in this screenplay, which was a shame.
And then also the other, I'm not going to mention even the Neil Patrick Harris character. Like, that's just like, we've talked about the themes and everything. The actual plot of what happens, you go watch the film, guys. But I will mention I wanted to mention this actually. I was going to mention they're the upgrades to the Matrix, like the doorways of getting in and out. It is what it is, world building, whatever. What I wanted to mention is this, Conrad. Maybe it's because you told me before I watched it that it was really meta and that I would, I would probably enjoy it because of that. But I'll tell you what I thought I was going to watch. This is the film I thought I was going to watch, and I'm actually a little disappointed I didn't watch it. But I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed the film. I thought we were going to get a real world, like 2021 or 2020, where the Matrix films had been out 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And this is how meta I thought it was going to go. Not just meta in terms of making a game or whatever. And I thought that it was going to be out that long ago. And I thought that the idea was that the Matrix was going to be created within our world based on the idea from the film. And then they were going to... Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was...
There'd been a lot of explaining to get to that, I think.
I thought it was going to be that meta, Like, I think, it was going to be like some people creating the Matrix because they liked the idea of it from the film.
Yeah.
And then it actually
what Keanu Reeves is like shooting John Wick 4 and then just turned into Neo at some point.
That's honestly I thought they were going to go that way. I thought it was going to be meta in that way, where like the Matrix was going to be born out in our own world. But anyway, it didn't happen.
No, we didn't get that. Maybe for the next one, because apparently they're pushing to make more of these. I think it does kind of work as a much like the first Matrix. It works as a self-contained movie for the most part, I think. But there's wiggle room if they wanna like do some more. They did establish in this that the reason that the robots kind of or the machines broke their pacts is because there was essentially a civil war between the machines and the bad faction overthrew the good faction. There's stuff to explore there if they want to, and maybe they'll come back another 20 years when Keanu's 70, and it'll be like,
oh, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. I will say, last thought. It'll take 10 seconds. Carrie-Anne Moss, well done, fantastic. I support you. When she turned 40 years old, she's been public about this. When she turned 40 years old, she got a call to her agent offering her a role as a grandmother. That's no word of a lie. And look at her still in action films. At this age, I don't even know how old she is, but she's
I think she's in her 50s as well.
Yeah, is it? But she's still going doing the Matrix. So all I can say is well done you, and I appreciate that you spoke out about that the way that older women are treated in Hollywood.
Yeah, that reminds me of I watched Don't Look Up this week, which we might get round to talking about next week on the podcast. And one of the funniest Letterboxd reviews I saw of that movie was that they were praising Leonardo DiCaprio's performance for pretending that he was attracted to women the same age as him in that movie. Because it's the only time I've ever seen Leonardo DiCaprio with an appropriately aged wife in any movie he's ever been in. It is not a two-way street, unfortunately, for women, it's still the case. But Carrie-Anne Moss absolutely out there bringing it. She does a lot of good action work in this. Trinity is still a badass, as it turns out. Not that anyone was doubting it. Anthony, what would you give it if I held a gun to your head and forced you to rate this movie out of 5, which I might be doing? They don't know.
You're not gonna like it, Conrad. I think I do like the film.
Oh no! Okay. Here it comes. Here comes the sucker punch.
Yeah, here comes. I do like the film, but and there is a but.
We show it.
Yeah. I don't believe that it was the best Matrix film.
Absolutely not. No.
I think probably the first Matrix I would, out of 5, give it 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 3, Conrad.
Oh, that's all right. I thought you were going to say 2.
Although I do like it. I enjoyed the film. I just don't think it's above a 3 for me.
That's fair enough. I gave it a 4 because I did end up. I was really surprised by it, to be honest. I was kind of going in cautious, thinking I might hate this, but I was in a good Matrix mood, and I thought it was 4. But it's worth seeing. I think we can both agree upon that.
Definitely worth seeing.
Which is going to lead us quite nicely into answering one question, as we always do on this here podcast, and that is, Anthony, with all this in mind, what's your favourite movie this week?
Oh, I will rewatch it for the first time in years. Got to be 10 Things Ahead About You.
Oh, I watched that quite recently as well. It's still a good movie. Still a good movie. Heath Ledger was like 20 years old when he made that. It's ridiculous.
He looks about 30. Well, Heath Ledger was only 27 when he died. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't realise how young everyone in that movie was. But
great chemistry between the main two, Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles, though.
Lovely JGL appearance as well in that.
He's on the rise. He was on the rise at the time.
He was knocking on the door of Hollywood saying, I'm a leading man. If only you'd let me, I can be a leading man in movies like Looper. And I like Looper. I shouldn't make fun of it. Mine is going to be Matrix Resurrections, because I think this movie is great and everyone should see it. Yes, so that's definitive. We've established that now. Thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. You can check out links to their stuff down in the description. And thank you to you for joining us. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're the best movie podcast ever on podcasting apps, and we are The Culture Cave on YouTube. That's the name of our channel. Drop the show a like if you haven't already done that. It really does help us get some traction in the algorithm, and we will see you same time, same place next week.
He's beginning to believe again.